The sneeze echoed through the metallic corridors of the Trillaxian diplomatic vessel like a gunshot in a cathedral. Achoo! Ambassador Velnix flinched so hard his translator module slipped halfway off his cranial ridge. He spun around, eyes wide, limbs stiff with alarm. The human was still standing. In fact, he was wiping his nose on the sleeve of his gray thermal shirt and reaching for the mop again. "Did you just expel a pathogen?" Velnix asked, voice trembling. "Achoo, yeah, pollen season, I think," said Adam Norrell, sniffling. "You guys keep the air filters on low." Velnix took a cautious step back, his neural scanner already buzzing in alarm. "You're still upright. You expelled particulate matter at over 100 miles per hour. That is a violent rejection of internal contamination." "Do you require isolation?" Adam dunked the mop into the bucket and resumed scrubbing the corridor. "Nah, just allergies, maybe a cold. I'll hit some tea later." "But that sneeze registered on our seismic sensors." Adam looked up, puzzled. "You guys don't sneeze, we do not. Our immune systems handle internal threats through molecular modulation. Sneezing is catastrophic behavior. Among Rillari, such a purge would signal terminal cellular collapse." Adam leaned on the mop. "Wait, are you telling me if you sneezed, someone would assume you were dying? They would initiate death rites." Adam blinked. "Well, good thing I'm not Rillari." Velnix tilted his head, watching the human wipe his nose again with the back of his wrist and casually move to the next section of floor. Each motion was deliberate, calm, and entirely unconcerned with what Velnix's biological readings indicated was a Class 5 systemic inflammatory reaction. "Your body temperature is elevated," Velnix said, voice tight. "Your respiration was erratic for 7.2 minutes. You expelled mucus." "You are infected." "Probably," Adam said. "It's just a cold. I get one every year around this time. You want me to sanitize the mess hall next. You are symptomatic. You must rest." Adam tilted his head. "Do you want the kitchen smelling like wet socks tomorrow?" Velnix opened his mouth to protest again when the emergency biomonitor on his wrist lit up with a crimson pulse. He stared at it. The human's vitals were fluctuating erratically: fever, sinus inflammation, increased white blood cell count, but strangely, the readings were stabilizing. "You are adapting," Velnix whispered. Adam shrugged. "That's what immune systems do, right?" Velnix turned slowly and strode out of the corridor without another word. He had to report this to the council. Adam was back in the galley by dusk, wiping down counters and humming slightly off-key. He'd been on Trillaxian vessels for 4 weeks now, part of the first human custodial exchange program. Earth had found a niche in interstellar diplomacy, not through politics or warfare, but cleaning. Turns out, in a galaxy obsessed with sterile environments and ritual hygiene, humans were uniquely willing to scrub things that smelled like moldy despair. And they didn't faint at the sight of bio-waste. Adam sneezed again, louder this time, and a nearby Trillaxian technician dropped his instrument tray. "Sorry," Adam said, wiping his nose. "That one snuck up on me." The technician shook, eyes wide. "You should be in quarantine." "Already talked to Velnix," Adam said, spraying the counter. "He said something about death rites and walked off." The technician backed away slowly, then ran. Adam sighed and reached for another rag. By the next morning, the rumors had spread across the ship like wildfire in dry brush. He coughed in the waste chamber and kept working. He blew his nose and drank hot leaf water. He laughed. While infected. A council meeting was called. Velnix attended via HoloLink, a thick barrier of medical shielding between him and the rest of the chamber. "The human has shown resilience beyond anticipated thresholds," Velnix said. "We cannot explain it. The infection is real, the fever is real, yet he continues to function." One of the elder scientists leaned forward. "Function how?" He sanitized the entire lower deck. Then he requested additional cleaning supplies. A long silence followed. Could it be a form of biological madness? Another asked quietly. Velnix hesitated, Possibly, or perhaps this is normal for them. The chamber fell into a horrified silence. Adam, meanwhile, was in the engine bay mopping around the coolant vents when he slipped slightly and landed hard on his elbow. "Ah, hell," he muttered, clutching the arm. He stood slowly, wincing. The impact had sent a sharp jolt up his forearm. He rotated the elbow. Pain stabbed through it. "Not a sprain, maybe a fracture," he tapped his calm. "Medical bay, this is Norrell. Think I dinged my arm. Mind if I swing by for a check?" The response was immediate and panicked. "Do not move. We will come to you. Contain your infection," Adam sighed. "It's not related, I fell. Probably just need an X-ray. We will sanitize the corridor." Two medics arrived in full containment suits and scanned his arm with a portable bone scanner. The results were clear. "Fractured radial head," the taller medic said. "You must be immobilized." Adam nodded grimly. "Yeah, I figured." "You got a sling," they looked at him. "You are not distressed." "I mean, it hurts, but I've had worse." The shorter medic whispered something inaudible. Adam raised an eyebrow. "Guys, we believed the infection had reached your bones," the medic said, "but this is unrelated." "Yeah. I fell." "You are functioning with a viral infection and a broken limb." "I'm not functioning, I'm finishing my shift," Adam said, pulling the sling over his shoulder. "Then I'm taking ibuprofen and sleeping for 12 hours. The medic stared as he limped back toward the supply closet. 3 days later, Adam was finally off duty and resting in the crew quarters, arm in a sling, fever down to a manageable simmer. He had tea on the heating coil, a blanket around his shoulders, and a datapad with a crossword puzzle on his lap. Velnix entered cautiously, holding a sealed container. "I have brought root extract. Our people use it during healing." Adam accepted the container and sniffed. "Smells like licorice and regret. Thanks." Velnix sat watching him. "You are recovering?" "Yeah, cold's almost gone, arms healing." "Doc said 6 weeks before full rotations back." Velnix tilted his head. "You sneezed, then continued manual labor with a fractured limb." Adam shrugged gently. "Had a job to finish. You did not request aid, you did not isolate." "I didn't think I needed to." "It's not like I had the plague." Velnix leaned forward. "Among my people, such symptoms would be catastrophic, yet you treated them with casual diligence." Adam looked up. "That's just life back home. You get sick, you manage. You get hurt, you cope. You don't stop everything, you adapt." Adam smiled faintly. "Yeah, we do." Velnix stood slowly. "Perhaps that is your species' true strength." Adam raised his tea to muddling through. Velnix hesitated, then raised an invisible glass. "To muddling through." By the end of the week, the diplomatic vessel issued a formal addendum to their medical protocols. "Human sneeze no longer indicates terminal infection," it read. "Do not initiate death rites unless accompanied by cessation of cardiac activity." Adam read it over breakfast and chuckled. He sneezed once into his napkin, then reached for more toast. The Trillaxian sanitation bay was unusually quiet for midday. Its usual chimes and sterilization drones paused as if the entire system was holding its breath. Adam stood in the middle of the bay, sleeves rolled up past his elbows, a brace wrapped tightly around his left arm. His other hand was jammed into the side of a storage unit, trying to coax a jammed latch back into place. "Why is this thing always stuck?" he muttered, wiggling it again. "You'd think with all this tech, someone would have invented a door that doesn't jam if you breathe near it." A cluster of Trillaxian engineers stood several meters away, just outside the threshold. They weren't technically hiding, but their deliberate positioning behind the decontamination arch suggested they were not eager to enter. "You are not authorized to manipulate compartmental hardware under musculoskeletal restriction," one of them said, voice filtered through a respirator dome that seemed excessive even by Trillaxian standards. Adam grunted and yanked the latch free. It snapped open with a mechanical cough, revealing a row of solvent cartridges and a half-empty container of degreasing wipes. "Yeah, well, the degreaser's been leaking. I'm trying to stop it before it eats through the floor again. You are healing. You must not exert." I'm not lifting a space shuttle, I'm opening a cabinet. He pulled one of the cartridges out and examined its seal. The leak had spread over the bottom, forming a sticky amber pool laced with a chemical tang that stung the nose. He sighed, set it aside, and reached for a containment tray. The tallest engineer stepped forward hesitantly. We observed that your limb is not yet at full tensile capacity. Performing tasks in this state is suboptimal. Tell that to the floor crew who keeps slipping on this stuff. I'm just trying to keep someone from cracking their spine. You are prioritizing communal safety above personal recovery. Adam looked up. Isn't that what you're supposed to do when you share a workspace? The engineer made a soft whirring sound, something between confusion and mild distress. Another, shorter one leaned in to whisper something, but Adam caught it. Did you just say ritual martyr syndrome? The shorter Trillaxian stiffened. It is a behavioral profile we have cataloged. In rare cases, individuals will exhaust themselves in service of a collective, often without acknowledgement or reward. It is considered pathological. Adam blinked. You think I'm sick because I don't want someone to break their neck on industrial cleaner. You exhibit signs of disregard for self-preservation. This is not a common trait among sapient species. He raised an eyebrow. You ever worked a double shift at a diner during flu season with a busted wrist and a manager who thinks labor laws are optional? The Trillaxians stared. Didn't think so, Adam muttered, pressing the containment tray over the leak and sealing the cartridge inside. One of the engineers stepped forward again, more cautiously this time. Your tolerance for discomfort remains high. We have monitored your progress. Bone knitting is progressing at expected rates, yet you continue to report minimal distress. I didn't say it doesn't hurt. I said I'm managing it. Through willpower alone? No, through ibuprofen and not doing anything stupid, mostly. The engineer tilted his head. We require further observation. May we request voluntary participation in a baseline comparison study? Adam closed the cabinet and stood straight. Does it involve poking, prodding, or sneaking into my room at night? No, he considered for a moment. Fine. But I'm not shaving anything. By late evening, he was seated on a padded diagnostic bench in the medbay, his arm resting on a stabilizing cushion. A fresh scan mapped his bone density in real time, projected in a shimmering 3D overlay above the table. It looked like a ghostly replica of his elbow fracture line still visible, but thinner than before. Across from him, a Trillaxian researcher with a shimmering teal carapace held a tablet and tapped through charts at a pace that suggested mild agitation. You consumed a synthetic anti-inflammatory compound. Dosage was moderate, yet you continued physical labor within hours. I didn't run a marathon, Adam said, sipping from a lukewarm hydration pouch they'd handed him earlier. I just mopped a hallway. Your species metabolizes pain mitigation agents rapidly, yet your discomfort threshold suggests adaptation rather than suppression. Yeah, that's what painkillers are for. They help you do what you need to without collapsing. The researcher hesitated. But your system was under multiple stressors: viral infection, bone trauma, and exposure to industrial solvents. I wore gloves. You wore thin gloves. Adam shrugged. They kept the chemicals off my skin. The researcher's ocular nodes shifted color subtly, a sign of unease. Your species' durability is not merely biological, it is behavioral. You did not isolate, you did not request specialized assistance. Instead, you modified your tasks and continued. Are you saying that's abnormal? The researcher looked up. It is statistically improbable. Adam leaned back. Maybe you guys just haven't met enough of us yet. The door slid open and Velnix entered, arms retracted into his diplomatic robes, expression unreadable. He waited until the researcher stepped aside, then approached the diagnostic bench. I have reviewed the study notes, he said. There is a proposal to submit your case to the Interstellar Cooperative of Adaptive Physiology. Is that a science thing or a Hall of Fame? It is a peer-reviewed archive of anomalous biological responses. You would be the first human entry. Adam raised an eyebrow. I just sneezed and fixed a leak. That's not exactly Nobel-worthy. It is not the act, it is the context. Your resilience under compounding strain has unsettled many of our observers. Why? Because I didn't fall over. Because you shouldn't have been able to continue functioning without significant assistance. And yet, you did. Repeatedly. Adam looked around the room. You're telling me none of your people would do the same, Velnix considered. They might. But they would first require social validation, medical clearance, and the presence of a recovery coordinator. That sounds exhausting. It is. Adam rubbed his forehead. Look, I get it. Humans are weird, we work through stuff, sometimes too much. Doesn't mean we're trying to prove something. Sometimes we just want to get through the day without everything falling apart. Velnix nodded slowly. And if your body collapses under that strain, then I'll deal with it. Later. There was a long pause. You are aware, Velnix said finally, that this attitude is difficult to comprehend? Yeah, Adam said, standing slowly. It's not supposed to make sense, it's just how we are. He slid his jacket over the brace and nodded toward the exit. I'm due in the compost bay in the morning. That leak's been making the whole sector smell like feet in a sauna. Velnix didn't move. You will continue working, unless you order me to stop. Are you gonna? Velnix said nothing. Adam took that as permission. The next morning, a new sign was posted outside the med bay. Human patients may underreport pain. Monitor accordingly. Adam read it on his way to the compost bay and laughed under his breath. He opened the maintenance hatch, took one whiff, and gagged. Whatever was festering down there had evolved into something sentient and deeply unhappy. He pulled on a mask and gloves, grabbed a scraper, and said aloud to no one in particular, "Guess it's another beautiful day on the job." The compost bay door hissed open with a reluctant wheeze, releasing a wave of heat and something that smelled vaguely like burnt cabbage and wet wool. Adam stepped inside, already regretting not grabbing the heavy-duty filter mask. His boots stuck slightly to the floor with each step. Whatever had leaked here had congealed into something that possessed the consistency of jelly and the attitude of a cornered raccoon. A Trillaxian maintenance drone hovered nearby, blinking red and spinning in slow, indecisive circles. "You lost, buddy," Adam muttered, ducking under a low pipe and swatting away a dangling strand of fibrous sludge. "Yeah, I don't blame you." A trio of Trillaxians stood in a semicircle near the central control panel. They wore layered filtration garments that resembled inflated petals, and one of them held a long scanning rod that emitted a soft, pulsing hum. At the sight of Adam, they took a synchronized half-step back. "You are not assigned to this sector today," the tallest one said, his eye nodes twitching toward Adam's elbow brace. "Yeah, and I didn't plan on visiting a compost swamp before breakfast either," Adam replied, picking up a scoop and eyeing a drain clogged with what looked like decomposing lichen. But someone flagged a hazard report. "Guess who still has clearance? You are under medical recovery. And you're under 6 inches of biologically active mulch. Let's call it even." The Trillaxians exchanged a glance, one of those silent triangular stares that usually preceded a bureaucratic objection, but none of them moved to stop him. "I need a list of what's been dumped in here since the last filtration cycle," Adam said, kneeling by the drain. "And don't tell me it's classified again. You people once redacted a banana peel. We believed it was a bio-coded offering. It had a sticker. We believed the sticker was ceremonial," Adam sighed. "Just pull up the logs." The scanning rod flicked once and a projection shimmered to life in front of him. A scroll of inputs, mostly kitchen scraps, some Terran moss, a spilled nutrient gel flashed past. "There," Adam said, pointing at a line highlighted in orange. "What's that?" "Expired yeast culture. It was disposed of 2 standard days ago. Did anyone neutralize it before dumping?" There was an uncomfortable pause. It was assumed inert. Adam leaned back on his heels. "You dumped active yeast into a warm, damp, enclosed system full of sugars and proteins. That was not the intended outcome. Well, congratulations, you've made compost beer. He reached into his tool pouch and pulled out a small thermal cutter. This is why I keep telling you, if it fizzes, it ferments. And if it ferments, it foams. And if it foams, he tapped the pipe above him, which emitted a moist, gurgling groan. It overflows. The Trillaxians watched in uneasy silence as he sliced open the top of the drain housing and scooped out the expanding mass inside. It hissed and popped like bread dough on a hot skillet. "You're not using gloves," one of them finally said. "I'm using a scoop. There is spore activity. You are exposing epidermis." Adam glanced at his bare forearms. "It's yeast. I bake with this stuff. Worst case, I smell like sourdough for a week." That is a concerning lack of caution. Welcome to the human immune system. It's like a grumpy janitor doesn't like surprises, but it handles them. The drain beneath him gurgled again, louder this time. He stood and stepped back. "Seal that hatch and run a neutralizer cycle before this stuff colonizes the ventilation." One of the Trillaxians scurried to comply, fingers flying over the control panel. Within seconds, the drain hissed closed and a soft whine filled the room as the cleaning cycle began. Adam peeled off his mask and wiped his forehead with the inside of his elbow. "You might want to add fermentation awareness to your disposal protocols." The shortest Trillaxian shivered. "Do all of your species handle microbial threats so casually?" "Not casually. We just have a lot of practice." He looked around the bay. The air was already clearing and the floor had stopped making sticky noises. The thermal cutter went back into his belt pouch. "You don't need to stay," he said, turning toward the door. "Systems in purge mode. Let it run for an hour, then recheck the filters." As he walked out, the Trillaxians remained frozen in place, staring after him as if he'd just plucked a live plasma eel from a sink and used it to stir his coffee. Later that day, Adam sat in the galley with a tray of something vaguely resembling soup. He wasn't entirely convinced it was food, but the smell was tolerable and the texture hadn't yet tried to crawl away. Across the table, Velnix lowered his own tray and folded his upper limbs. "Your actions in the compost bay have been discussed. Let me guess, more paperwork?" "No, an inquiry." Adam rolled his eyes. "Of course. You demonstrated familiarity with microbial fermentation processes." "I make bread at home." "That's not exactly cutting-edge science." "You identified it before any of our sensors flagged it as hazardous." "I smelled it. It reeked of fermentation." "You used no instruments, no readings." Adam shrugged. "You ever walk into a room and just know someone's failed to clean up after a biology experiment?" "No." "Then you've never had a college roommate." Velnix was quiet for a moment, then leaned forward. "The Council is considering a reassessment of human resilience categories. Currently, you are listed under moderate biological volatility. That may be insufficient." "What would you upgrade us to?" He paused. "Hyperadaptive." Adam blinked. "That sounds like a superhero name." "It is a classification used for species that endure environmental extremes beyond safe thresholds and continue to operate with minimal degradation." Sounds flattering. "But I'd settle for an extra day off." "What you did was not normal." "Depends on your definition of normal." "Your definition appears to include exposure to active cultures, elevated temperatures, and physical strain while still under partial skeletal recovery." "Yeah. But I didn't do anything risky." Velnix unwrapped a small nutrient pod and set it aside untouched. "We do not understand how your species balances discomfort with function." "You don't have to," Adam said, pushing his tray away. "Just understand that we do. It unsettles many of us." He leaned back. "You think I enjoy being the weird, resilient monkey in the room. You do not." "No. I'd prefer working smart, not hard. But when something's leaking and smells like a brewery's armpit, someone has to clean it up. Not everything needs a philosophy." Velnix was silent for a long moment. Then he reached for the nutrient pod again but didn't open it. "Then perhaps," he said slowly, "humanity's strength is not in your immunity or pain tolerance or adaptability." Adam raised an eyebrow. "Then what? Your refusal to wait for ideal conditions, he chuckled. Yeah, we're not big on ideal, Velnix nodded. I believe we will require another adjustment to our behavioral models. Add stubborn while you're at it. I already did. That night, the compost bay ran clean. No new leaks, no foam, no smells. The system had stabilized, so had the Trillaxians' perception, if only slightly. A new entry appeared in their internal training modules. Human personnel may engage with biologically unstable environments without prior clearance. This is not a breach of protocol, but a manifestation of their cultural response to emergent dysfunction. Adam never saw the memo. He was too busy unclogging a coolant valve that had somehow filled with crystallized nectar from a diplomatic fruit basket gone rogue. But he did notice the next time he walked through the corridor, someone had left a fresh mask, gloves, and a tightly sealed thermos of ginger tea by the supply hatch. No note. Just a quiet acknowledgement. He smiled, took the thermos, and kept walking.